Now I know I've already made a video attacking Ancaps, but what can I say, Ancaps are easy targets. I'll at least give them credit that Ancaps seem to focus less on identity politics and more on economics, but to be honest, that's pretty much why I find it easier to attack their ideas anyway, because I just don't really care about IDPOL, but yeah. So I want to talk today about how it seems that ANCAPs don't even understand the main two factors that perpetuate their own ideology. First, the state, and secondly, welfare. Now, I want to say I don't actually support either of these things. Welfare because it's used by the capitalist to perpetuate capitalism for the reasons I'm about to go through, and I think we should smash the state and replace it with a worker-controlled one instead, which would over time wither away. What I'm trying to get across in this video is that ANCAPs don't realize that capitalism relies on these things, and that if they were to be done away with, they would most likely just be replaced in some other way, or the workers would rise up and lead us to glorious socialism, or maybe some form of fascism. Accelerationism gets pretty volatile, but anyway, let's get into this. So let's talk about the state first. ANCAPs believe that the state is only there to regulate and hinder corporations under capitalism, or lead to monopolies and mega corporations, giving us cronyism, which is what we have today, rather than true capitalism. Let's just ignore for the fact that ANCAPs also say that everything good we have is also due to true capitalism, but anyway. Now, leftists, on the other hand, believe that the state is an inherent part of capitalism and is required for capitalism to remain functional. The state as we know it today has never actually been a thing before the birth of capitalism, and since the birth of capitalism, it's been growing alongside with it, being formed and shaped by it, and so has capitalism. Capitalism and the state have always been entwined, since the centuries ago that was created, and in a sense are dependent on each other. The interests of the ruling class, who are a minority, will never align with the interests of the working class, who are the majority, as everyone in capitalism wants to be on top. Of course, though, basic logic dictates that you can't have everyone on top, because then everyone's the same, so it doesn't really work. This is why even if everyone really is pulling up their bootstraps and trying just their best, you're always going to have people at the bottom of society living with far worse conditions than anyone else. In fact, the majority of people will be living that. Not everyone can have it good under capitalism. In fact, most people don't. But anyway, it's because of this that the state is perpetually required to oppress the working class to essentially keep them in their place. It's because of this that the state is required to perpetually oppress the working class by 1. Keeping them where they are throughout generations, and 2. Making sure they continue to serve their capitalist overlords. The state is made up of the ruling class and serves the ruling class. There is no form of capitalism that doesn't have a ruling class because, as I said, then you wouldn't have classes. If you do remove the state under capitalism, one of two things is going to happen. Firstly, the working class, now no longer oppressed, will rise up and overthrow their capitalists, realizing that they don't need a CEO to run their own workplace. Or, what's more likely to happen, the ruling class will use private police forces, private armies, and private media platforms to spread their propaganda, so that one mega corporation or several cooperating corporations can form their own kind of corporate state that does everything the state does today in terms of oppressing the working class. So we're back to having a state. My overall point is that you can't really have capitalism without a state. Even if you remove this type of state that we have today, a new type will spring up to ensure that the ruling class remains in power, because it's in their best interest. Capitalism will create a new state, even if you remove the one it already has. Secondly is welfare. Now, welfare is important for one main reason. When you have unemployed people, welfare prevents them from revolting. Now, I know ANCAPs think unemployment wouldn't be a problem, but can you honestly say that would at be all times 0%? Because here you have two options. You can say there will be some unemployment, in which case these people are going to get desperate due to the lack of food, and eventually be more likely to rise up and try and overthrow the capitalist state. Or if you say it would be 0%, shows again how little you actually know about your own ideology. Unemployment is something that the capitalists utilize to make profit. So if there is no unemployment would be artificially created. Unemployment is useful because it forces the working class to compete among themselves for lower wages to get jobs, especially when there's no minimum wage installed. If someone is starving to death, they're going to be willing to work for any price that will put food on their table or their family. This means they're likely to be willing to work for a lower price than someone who's already employed. So this pre-existing worker has to be able to work for less or be replaced by the more desperate worker. Now, I am aware that this can work in the opposite way too. Different employers would have to increase their wages in order to compete for a workforce. However, this just again shows why unemployment is useful for the capitalists, because If you only have the competition among employers, that means wages are only going to be ever getting higher. So it's very much in the interest of the capitalists to create unofficial unemployment, even if there is none in the first place. If they create the unemployment, then it balances this out. So this means that some unemployment is, if anything, going to be inherent to capitalism. And if there's no welfare in place to keep the unemployed eating, they're going to be much more likely to be willing to go to the streets and overthrow their capitalist overlords. So you see, Ancaps, don't hate the state and all the free money it gives out to everybody all the time. It's only there to help your beloved job creators at the end of the day. I also just want to make one quick point before I end. I get that a lot of ANCAPs and libertarians don't like the state, not because they feel it hinders corporations or leads to monopolies, but simply because they feel that any service carried out by the state is always going to be less efficient than if it were carried out privately. And I can see where they get this from. I mean, isn't it in America where you can get a pizza faster than you get a police response? The thing is, they're right, but only for the state under capitalism. If the state under capitalism is not open to direct democracy and is instead a bureaucratic fuckfest, when there's no competition involved, it's obviously much likely to have lower quality of services. However, a worker state, on the other hand, is different. A worker state serves the workers, and it is the workers who decide exactly and directly how things are run. This is something you don't get in a state today, or in even private companies. It's because of this, and how it's in the best interest of everyone that the services that the state provides are working as best as possible, that they're going to be functioning better under socialism. Now, this wouldn't be better than workers directly controlling the means of production themselves, of course, and it would only be temporary, but it works on the same principle. Anyway, thanks for watching.